Okay, welcome. The Citizens Action Committee is providing a forum for presentation on the plan for the modulars, especially focusing on the elementary school modulars. And due to some technical difficulties, the presentation is on the screen right now, and Bob Armacost is going to be doing the presentation, and he'll be speaking to that. Basically, the question that's on the ballot is to fund the modulars for both the elementary, middle, and high school. And Bob's going to speak to the elementary specifically, and then in very broad brushes might mention the middle and the high. And I'm going to turn over to Bob now. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. The discussion over the next 15 to 20 minutes will just provide an update for all the listeners on just really three basic questions. Firstly, what is this modular article about? What's it for? What are we buying? And what are the details? Secondly, why do we need them? And in particular, we're going to focus on the elementary schools, in which a subcommittee of the school department spent a couple of months working all last fall to come up with a study on the elementary school requirements. And we'll talk in some detail about that. We'll also tell you a little bit about what happens if this article fails. And then thirdly, we want to give you a little bit of context regarding how this fits within the broader elementary school planning, both any short and medium-term redistricting that's required, as well as how this would fit with the longer-term elementary school space solution, which, as you know, is still in process. Very, very briefly, the description of the article is as follows. The article is asking for funding of up to $1.1 million for the purchase and siting of 6 modular units at the Hood School, the middle school, and the high school. These are not intended to be permanent solutions. This is an intermediate-term solution, a stopgap bridge to address the most critical unmet classroom space needs that we have and will continue to get worse until the permanent projects are completed. As everybody knows, there have been several efforts within the town to try to address the elementary school permanent space solution, and it's at least 3 or 4 years before anything would possibly be online. As we know, that will be a conversation at the next town meeting. And likewise at the middle school and the high school, those projects have likewise been delayed by the town because of all the issues in getting a solution passed and agreed to by the voters for the elementary school. So it's imperative that we address the intermediate term needs between now and then. This is an unfortunate situation that we're in. This is not anything that anybody would have wanted to have to do, but it's required, as we'll talk about later. So specifically, it's really 2 units at the Hood School, 2 units at the middle school, and 2 units at the high school. All of them will be used for classroom space to accommodate increasing enrollment at all the schools. Although one of them will be used for cafeteria space, which we know is one of the issues that the high school has. Again, that will be addressed when the permanent solution comes online, but in the interim, that is still a huge space crunch for the high school. Specifically, the 6 units cost roughly $200,000 per unit. That is a high end of the range, and it's expected that if things are purchased effectively, that we'll be able to come in less than that, and therefore under the full $1.1 million. Although we're not going to know that for certain until we go out and procure the units. It also would cover about $100,000 in site improvement work, which would be primarily at the Hood site, and we'll talk about that later. That's offset by about $200,000 that are remaining from a previous appropriation for elementary school modulars that was approved a year ago. So that's the description of the article, plain and simple. Now, why do we need it? And what I'm going to do is focus primarily on the elementary schools here, because that's where the most significant need is. What I just want to do is hearken everybody back to our elementary school population in the town. It has grown 40% over the last 8 years, and that has put an unbelievable crunch on our elementary school space. And this is even after the renovation and the expansion at the Hood and the Little. And in fact, if we look at what this population of 1,400 or so students today causes on the system, it's basically caused us not only to fill out literally every room in the existing schools. So as you see on this slide, the top line, which says permanent classrooms as built, 19 at the Batch, 25 at the Hood, 23 at the Little, for a total of 67. That's literally all of the permanent space. We have a requirement, unfortunately, for 74 because of the 1,400 students, and the school department has creatively, created extra classrooms through compromising some other space not intended for classrooms, and then also by citing modulars, 2 modular units at the Batch, as we know, 1 modular unit at the Little, and that's enabled us to, barely meet the requirement for the 74 classrooms. And in case there's questions, I won't go through these things in a lot of detail, but we have a couple of what we call helicopter diagrams of all 3 elementary schools, in which in color all of the space as it's being used now is highlighted, the classroom space. In literally every classroom, every closet, every bathroom, every space of every one of these schools is being used, and then some. On the Batchelder School on the slide you see now, I just want to point out 2 things. The first is at the top left of the picture. You see where it says library. The library has had to be cut in half in order to create another 5th grade classroom to accommodate all of the increasing enrollment so far. And so there's virtually no library. It's a very, very small scaled down library in the Batchelder School. And then finally on the top right are the 2 modular units, which have created 4 classrooms, as you see on the top right. And this is setting aside all the issues regarding the quality of the space and some of the other issues that are driving us to replace or renovate this school. So we're literally out of space and then some at the Batchelder School. The same holds true at the Hood School, in which literally every space from even the renovation and the expansion that was done a year ago or 2 years ago has been filled up. And then finally at the Little School, as you'll see, every space there has been filled up. We've had to do a bunch of redistricting over the past year to centralize pre-K and special education here. So what we've actually had to do here is cite 1 modular that you'll see on the left in dotted lines to hold the integrated pre-kindergarten. So we're out of space now. Not only that, but we've already created negative impacts to our elementary school students. Firstly, the class sizes today are too high. Just to clarify the actual data, and again, I'm happy to share specific spreadsheets with anybody that wants. The overall district average is 22 students per class. It's not 17 students per class, which I know we've seen talked about in some recent discussion in the transcript. And in fact, in several key grades, the average class sizes are well above the district target of 22. And those include the Little 3rd and 4th, and then the Hood 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Most specifically in the Hood 3rd, the average class size is almost 26, which is well above the average and above what the school department would say is educationally sound levels. Secondly, as we know, 5 classes are conducted daily in modulars. These are units that are not physically attached to the building. Kids have to, in some cases, walk outside or walk through corridors to get there. They're not plumbed, although they're largely functional. They're certainly not what we call permanent space. The Batchelder facility, thirdly, as we talked about, is overtaxed. We talked about the library space, and that's just one of many issues they have. And then finally, last spring, in order to just make all of this work and make the math work with 1,400 students, our families and teachers have been negatively impacted by some redistricting that was done last spring. The Batchelder kindergarten, as we know, now attends their school at the Hood. And what that has basically required is rerunning all of the bus routes so that the kindergartners have to sit on buses, basically 2 routes worth of buses, and in some cases they're on the bus for 45 minutes in the morning. And what that relies on our teachers to do also is to volunteer literally to greet the kids early, since they're not on the regular Hood school buses. So this has caused an impact on the 5- and 6-year-olds, but then also on the teachers. And certainly it raises the question of whether that's sustainable for even 1 more year. Secondly, last spring, 14 Batchelder first graders were spot redistricted, meaning they were permanently moved to a different school, either the Hood or the Little, and in some cases away from siblings. And then finally, in contradiction with state guidelines, our special education programs are now all concentrated in the little school, and that's not something that is consistent with where we want to be also. So, you know, the increased space is barely working, and everybody's feeling negative impacts now. If we look at what's required over the next 3 to 4 years, what's required is even more classrooms. In order to meet and even come close to our district size target, space must allow for 3 additional classrooms. As you'll see on this bar chart, from the middle bar, which says today, to 0405, you see the bar where it says grades 3 to 5. This is going to have to go up by 3 classes, and that's because we've got too many students and just not enough classrooms right now. And where the space crunch is going to occur over the next 4 years is at the Hood School. For example, the Batchelder first grade right now is, in fact, the second grade right now is about 90 students. And so if you divide that by 3, which the Hood School currently has 3 sections, when they get to the 3rd grade and then the 4th grade and then the 5th grade, there will be 30 kids per class. And that's, you know, almost 50% higher than our district targets. So there's a need identified for additional space. This is a conversation the school committee has had, and they're planning to incorporate in the operating budget for next year, or beginning next year, and in order to accommodate that, we need space. So 3 more classrooms are needed. So that leads us to modular units at the Hood School. What we're talking about doing is siting 2 modular units adjacent to the west side of the rear classroom ring at the Hood School. They would be sited literally right next to it, so the students could exit out a door, walk under a canopy, and go into the modular units. The engineering study has been completed. There will be no impact on the septic. There will be no impact on the other core utilities of the Hood School. And the only work that really has to be done is some moderate site work to move the access road and also grade the site. But it's something that is doable and relatively straightforward according to the engineer. If the article fails, we're not able to site 2 modular units at the Hood, and at most we're going to be able to site 1 modular unit with the remaining money from the previous appropriation, assuming that the site work could still be funded within that. And that would, in the best case, leave us 1 classroom short of our requirements, and possibly more than that. So the implication is that at least 1 specialty classroom will literally be removed from the Hood School and replaced with a grade classroom. So it might be art, it might be